Well, guys, I think this is officially it. California is in the rear view mirror, quite literally. It's behind me. I'm on the Interstate 40 here, Arizona, headed towards New Mexico, then across the panhandle of Texas, Oklahoma, and then into Arkansas. So yeah, it's official. Goodbye, California. Got lots of thoughts on it, lots of things to talk about. So I hope you guys got a little bit today, because this is not going to be a short conversation. So hopefully you got a little time to ride along with me here today and talk about these things. And yeah, feel free to share your thoughts on anything said, of course. Well, let's just jump into it. I made a few notes, not many, but a few, just to get on the main topics. First of all, I would just like to start by saying that California is a beautiful place. It's where I grew up. It's where I was born, in Arcata, California. I grew up in Happy Camp, California. I learned how to cut trees and work, and basically my whole life has been Northern California. And I do want to make a distinction between Northern California and Southern California. There's a big difference. Northern California is very rural, very country-like, and kind of more like a country mindset. And of course, Southern California is definitely more the city and more the city mindset. And unfortunately, what's happened with Northern California is since it's tied to Southern California, those mindsets and ideals that don't really match with the more rural country mindset of many Northern Californians. But unfortunately, if you live in Northern California, you're tied to all that, and you got to deal with all the problems and the issues that get legislated by basically the bulk of the population of California. So we'll get into some of that kind of stuff here in a minute, but I just want to talk about more on a personal note here at first. There's a lot to say here. There's so much to say here. So much. Like I said, I'm 52 years old right now. That's been my entire life is Northern California, working and living there. Let's start with the positives. Probably one of the most beautiful places there is Northern California. The natural beauty is really tremendous. Now, I'm sure Hot Springs, it's got Hot Springs has natural beauty and stuff as well, but it is pretty hard to beat the oceans and the mountains and all the things of Northern California, just natural beauty wise, for sure. And of course, the other aspect of this is family. I still have a significant amount of family there. I have family in other states as well, but the bulk of my family is still in Northern California, so that's difficult to make this decision to move so far away from them. That was not an easy decision. It's been a long time coming. A lot of things kind of led to this point, and we'll get to all those things as we go along here. So yeah, that's what I'm really sad to leave behind is family members, natural beauty, all those things. Just a place I called home for basically most of my life. I've been other places, done other things and all that, but the bulk of my life has been in Northern California for living and working. So yeah, definitely a sadness there putting that in the rearview mirror. You know, there is a sadness there for sure, and I freely acknowledge that. And so what the question then becomes, what would drive a person to go and leave behind that and start somewhere else, given all that? Well, just the difficulty of living there. The cost of living's just gotten so out of hand, so difficult to keep up with the bills and keep things paid there. And that kind of goes in hand with the other thing, which is it's so over-regulated, so many rules and regulations. To buy property or to buy a house, it's not even yours because they regulate you so heavily that you know, it's illegal to do anything with your property practically. People do stuff there anyways, obviously, but I don't think there's such thing as actually being in compliance in California. I think you're always out of compliance because there's so many agencies, so many rules. If they ever decide to come after you for anything, they would have a list a mile long, because practically anything and everything, breathing is practically illegal, to be honest. And I don't think I'm overstating this. I'm saying this as somebody who's lived in California a long time. It's out of control. That's what's ruining the state, is the greed of the politicians, the over-regulation, the zealous, I guess you would say, environmentalism that always just comes down to pay a fee, do this, do that, pay this fee, pay that fee, do that, do this, all this, and then I guess you could probably get some stuff done that way after years of paying fees and filling out paperwork. And it's just an absolute miserable place to get anything done. You might sense that as a normal working person. You might get a little bit of that. But if you're a business owner or in business in any capacity, you're going to really get the full brunt of California's overregulation. And anybody that's ever, done any kind of business or tried to, be compliant and play by the rules and just try to be a good citizen, you're going to be a frustrated person, because they always want more. They don't treat you. They treat the criminals better than the citizens. If you're a citizen that's just trying to be a hardworking person and get along, they treat you like basically like you're lucky to be alive and you're lucky to be there. Kiss the golden ring. You're lucky to be doing business in California. You're lucky that's their attitude. They are very hostile to business, and that gets so old. I wasn't, for the last few years, I was a timber falling contractor, so that's not quite the same as like a full-on business, like a tree service, like kind of what I'm trying to do here in Arkansas. But even, at the contractor level, it was just aggravating to deal with the state of California. And the list of rules they roll out for the timber industries and for everybody, it's just insane. And it gets so old. And it has this wearing effect. And as a working person, you just get weary. It's like this tiring thing. It's like they wear you down, and and you say, oh, you're at work or whatever. Did you hear about this regulation, or you got to do this now, or got to do that now? Okay, and everybody just kind of lets out a sigh. All right, guess we'll try to do that too. Oh, we got to pay that. We got to do that. Okay, and it just how people get after a while. I mean, what else are you supposed to do as a working person? Is plod along as they pile more and more on you. And that's how it is there. And you don't even realize it. It's almost like an abusive relationship or something where you're getting abused all the time by the state, but you kind of get used to it, but at the same time you know it's screwed up. And I'm just kind of curious now, going to a freer place like Arkansas that's, you know, rated as being good for business, how that's going to be. I think it's going to be such a good feeling. I'm really looking forward to that. So what was the straw that broke the camel's back? Well, that's a good question, because I mean, it was kind of weird, really. So last spring, I hadn't ever really, well, early of last year, I had no plans on moving to Arkansas in January 2025, February of 2025. I was just planning on staying in California, just making things work, forging ahead like I've always done. I just figured I would just, you know, deal with stuff like always, forge ahead, you know. That's what I've always done. That's what most Californians do. And so that was kind of my mindset going into 2025. So what changed? Well, a few things. First of all, the industry I'm in. So most of you watching this channel know what I do and everything. But for those of you who don't know, maybe you're watching this video is kind of different than my normal videos. So if you're coming in off of somewhere else or whatever, so just so you know, my name is Dan Leeper. I've been a commercial timber faller in Northern California for over 30 years now, and that's my profession. And so, yeah, it's been quite a long time working and living there. And where was I going with this? Oh, okay. So the timber industry is changing, but more specifically, what I do for a living, hand falling, that's tapering off because of mechanical issues. I talked about this in a couple other videos, but because they've developed mechanized ways of cutting trees, bucking trees, all of that. And so as time has progressed, the need for hand fallers has gotten less and less and less. And 2025 was definitely feeling it more than ever. I could see the handwriting on the wall, knew that I need to get a business started or something, have some sort of an exit plan from hand falling. And originally I was going to do the same thing that I'm going to do in Arkansas. I was going to do in California. I was going to go get set up, be an actual official tree service business slash have a little mini excavator with a brush mower and all the stuff I'm going to do in Arkansas, I was going to do in California, and just kind of integrate out of cutting trees and just sort of work that together and go forward that way and build the business up, and eventually just full on do the business in California, the tree business. That was my plan in the beginning of 2025. So as I'm planning and getting ready for all that, something interesting happened. I was actually down at one of the equipment places. I was talking to one of the equipment salesmen about a brush mower and a mini excavator and some different stuff, and he was actually on the board with the city or something of Eureka, and he was just talking about that. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. He said, like, yeah, I was at a city meeting, and Did you know that if you go cut brush in certain areas in Eureka, it's illegal, and the Coastal Commission is going to fine you and all this and that? I'm like, oh wow. I mean, because that was part of my business plan, is like to actually be cutting brush, and stuff with my brush mower and stuff like that. And that was just like a moment. Have you ever had one of those moments where it's just like it was something snapped? It's not as if I'm so used to hearing different things about this is illegal, that's illegal, don't do this, don't do that, you'll get fined if you do this. I mean, that's normal in California. But at that moment, as I'm preparing to start a business in California and integrate out of contract timber falling and just try to start a simple little business that I could run with maybe me and one other employee, and just not cause any problems, try to be a nice, decent citizen and do what I need to do and make a living. The fact that just to do that was asking too much, because I'm going to have to worry about being illegally cutting brush somewhere, or illegally doing this or illegally doing that. It's so bad. Like, you could even pull up the regulations. So CAL FIRE demands that you clear 100 feet of brush around your place. Coastal Commission demands that you clear no brush around your place. So you actually have agencies opposing each other. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. It doesn't matter what you do. You're not in compliance with anything. It's totally screwed. It was at that moment, it was right at that moment, it was a very pivotal moment that I said, I am done. If I'm going to start a business, it's not going to be in California. And that's all I knew at that point. And that's kind of where it went from there. And at that point, I started talking to my brother who lives in Arkansas. He works for a gas company out here in Hot Springs, and we started talking. I started looking at the cost of living, the housing prices, and housing prices are great, cost of living is great, business friendly. And I said, one way or another, I think we can make this work. And so ended up buying a little house there. This was in May of 25. I think the house closed in June of 2025. So I just went ahead and had the house closed, but stayed in California to finish out the season and try to get as good a season in as I could, cutting logs to try to give myself a runway out here, which I was able to get some money together and stuff to do all this. But it's just like everything else. Everything costs more than you think. Everything takes longer than you think. But at least, thank God, I got to this point where I'm able to be moving on, and at least giving this one heck of a go run for the money. So I'm happy to be here. Obviously there's stresses and worries about how to make all this work, and there's a lot of things to put together. Starting a business is not easy, especially cold starting a business like what I'm doing here. I mean, I'm just going out. It's like starting a cold saw in the middle of winter. It's not easy. You got to pull on that handle a lot of times. So I anticipate that it's going to take quite an effort to get things going, start getting a name, start getting going with doing tree work, with doing mini excavator work. But anyway, long story short, that's what happened. It's kind of how things got to this point. The genesis of all this was basically that point in, I believe that was the very end of March, what I was talking about there, when I was looking into starting a business there in California. And that would have been easier in the short term, really. like in the short term, because I would have been able to kind of work some with the cutting and some with the new business. It wouldn't have been such a drastic cut like what I'm doing here. But long term, you know, once I got the business up and going, then I would have just been in California battling those guys with their regulations and their insanity for the rest of my days, because it's not as if a working person can retire anymore. You really can't. I mean, I don't plan on retiring at 65 or whatever. I'm only gonna, for me, I'm probably going to be working a long, long time. And it just so happens that I like tree work. I like the little mini X type work. So I don't have a problem with that. But do I want to be harassed and chased around by state agencies and treated like I'm lucky to be there paying all their fines and fees and extra taxes and whatnot, and so lucky to be working in California? No, screw those guys. Screw those guys. And, you know, so many people have left California for a lot of these same reasons, and they never learn. They never learn. That's one thing I've noticed. Like, no matter how many people they chase off, they just continue. The next year, they roll out more new regulations. They just keep doing more of the same stuff. I don't know how bad it would have to get. Like, their mindset is so insane that they could be down to 100 people left in the state, and they would just say, well, we just gotta charge them more. We just gotta fine them more. We just gotta regulate them more. The 100 people we got left, they don't, I don't know. It's absolute insanity. But you know what? There's just a point where you decide, it is what it is. This is how they are. This is how they operate. What are you going to do about it? And that's the point I got to. And like I said, it is sweet, and I'm very happy to be leaving, in the sense that I don't want, I'm happy to be starting a new business and a new horizon, and doing something in a state that, as far as I can tell, and no place is perfect, by the way. No place is perfect. But at least I feel like a guy who wants to do something like this has a good chance here of doing something good and having a decent life and being appreciated. That's another big thing. You're just not... California, I just hate the way they treat working people. I hate the way they treat... You're better off to be a criminal in California, quite literally. Go walk into a grocery store, steal your $800 worth of groceries or whatever, or whatever. You really are better off. They treat working people and business owners like crap. They treat them like the criminals, and they treat the criminals like stand-up citizens. California's insane. So, I know I got on a bit of a rant here, but it's been a long time coming, and I'm done in being silent about it. I will speak out about it. I don't know if it'll do any good. I hope the state changes. I do. For the sake of the people there, I do. There's a lot of great people in California. If you're from California watching this, hey, I know I'm not, I think that Californians in general, or especially like the area, Northern California, there's a lot of great, hardworking people there, and they don't deserve to be treated like crap. But that's the state, and the way they do things sucks. It just does. I could give many examples. I just touched on that lightly, but that's just kind of the point. So anyway, that's kind of the stuff that drove me to this point here at 52 years old, to pack everything up, move across the country, and start over somewhere else. It's not all California. You know, I mean, some of it was a changing industry. That was part of it as well. Being phased out as a handballer, that was a part of it. But it all came together to this point, and so here we are. And yeah, that's kind of how it all came about. So well, I'm glad if you were able to hang in here to the end and spend this time riding along and listening to me rant today. Hope it was of some help. If not, if nothing else, it was felt good to just let it all out and talk about it. And hope that you guys got something out of that. God bless you guys. I'll catch you on next video.